Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something we all know exists, but, well, we rarely get to actually see. We're talking about the hidden mechanics of global influence, the architecture of power. And I don't mean the power you see on the news or politicians standing at podiums. I'm talking about the structural, invisible forces that actively shape the world around us. Let's get right to it.
Okay, let's dive into this. It is incredibly easy to look at global events and just think they're random, chaotic occurrences, right? Like things just happen. But power is not random. It's designed. There is this whole layer of influence operating quietly behind the headlines, and it relies on precision strategy rather than loud declarations.
Which leads us to a pretty fascinating question. How much of the world is actually shaped by forces we never even see? I mean, think about it. Intelligence agencies don't govern nations. They aren't out there passing laws. But what they do is quietly shape exactly what leaders know, what threats are perceived, and ultimately what actions those leaders end up taking.
Section 1. Designing invisible power. Now, to really understand this, we kind of have to strip away all those Hollywood spy tropes, the exploding watches, the high-speed car chases. True intelligence is strictly defined by three core actions: the collection, the analysis, and the use of information. It's basically a giant analytical machine designed solely to gain an information advantage. Governments rely on this super methodical process to understand risks, uncover opportunities, and outmaneuver their adversaries.
You definitely recognize the names on this list. The CIA in the US, MI6 in the UK, famously James Bond's fictional employer, and the MSS in China. Now, while these specific institutions rarely appear in open public debate when it comes to, say, new laws, their quiet assessments directly influence policy at the absolute highest levels of global governance.
Consider this quote, because it perfectly captures the distinction we're making today. Information is power, but controlled information is influence. There's a massive difference between passively knowing things and actively designing influence. When information is curated, controlled, and strategically delivered, it ceases to be just data. It literally becomes a lever that moves the world.
Section 2. The covert playbook. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it transitions us into seeing how declassified history reveals these invisible systems actually at work. While a lot of operations remain totally secret today, time eventually pulls back the curtain, taking us from theory to reality. Let's walk through this timeline. In 1953, Operation Ajax contributed to political change in Iran, proving intelligence could influence leadership outcomes without a direct military invasion. Jump forward to the Cold War with Operation Mockingbird, which raised some really profound questions about the role of intelligence in shaping media narratives and public discourse. And finally, into the digital age with Stuxnet. This was a cyber attack that demonstrated a piece of software, just code, could physically disrupt heavy industrial infrastructure.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this. Look at how wildly different those three operations are. We're talking political intervention, media influence, digital disruption. Entirely different methods, entirely different eras. Yet the fundamental architecture remains exactly the same. The common goal is always about shaping outcomes without overt, visible confrontation.
Section 3. Weaponizing perception.
Not all covert operations target physical infrastructure or foreign governments. Actually, scratch that. Some of the absolute most effective ones target human minds. This is the step-by-step methodology of psychological operations, or PSYOPs. Step 1. Influence morale. Maybe that's weakening the opposition's resolve or strengthening your own domestic support. Step 2. Shape the narratives, literally dictating the stories people tell themselves. And Step 3, which naturally flows from the first two, alter decision-making. You completely change behavior.
And naturally, this whole architecture of influence has expanded right into our modern digital spaces. We aren't just talking about leaflets dropped from biplanes anymore. Today, PSYOPs happen right in the palm of your hand while you doom scroll. It's coordinated messaging and viral content specifically engineered to trigger emotional responses through massive, unseen information campaigns. If you take away just one single thing from this section of the explainer, let it be this: control perception and you influence action without force. If you can shape the narrative that people believe, you literally never need to fire a shot. It is an incredibly effective form of invisible, nonviolent leverage.
Section 4. The new cyber frontline.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the battlefield has moved from the shadows of the Cold War right into the glow of your screen. Think about the shift here. Traditional influence involves visible, physical targets and direct confrontation, where you usually know exactly who did it. Cyber influence? It's the exact opposite. It's invisible, data-driven, incredibly difficult to detect, and notoriously hard to confidently attribute. It allows for just immense disruption while remaining totally unseen.
This operates through 4 key functions: surveillance, tracking targets globally, data interception, grabbing communications right out of the air, infrastructure probing, which is basically constantly testing the digital walls of other nations, and of course, cyber defense. The stakes here are astronomical, because a single, undetected vulnerability in these systems can disrupt entire global networks.
Let's anchor our cyber discussion with this definitive reality. In the digital age, data is not just information, it is leverage. If you control the data, if you can expose sensitive data or alter it, you hold the ultimate covert power, period.
Section 5. Shaping the options. So, all of this data gathering and perception shaping, it ultimately filters upward to impact how countries are run. Like we established earlier, intelligence doesn't make the final decisions, but it acts as the lens through which leaders view the world. It shapes what is considered a threat, what is considered urgent, and what is considered possible. Precise strategic intelligence can prevent catastrophic escalation, while incomplete data, well, that just leads straight to miscalculation.
Section 6. The ethics of secrecy. As we peel back the final layer of this explainer, we really have to confront the inevitable consequence of everything we've been talking about, the ethical dilemma of hidden power. It brings up some incredibly complex questions. First and foremost, who oversees the overseers? How do you govern a system that is, by its very design, completely invisible to the public?
There's this permanent, ongoing tension here, right? On one hand, maintaining national security in a really dangerous world absolutely requires covert operations and classified information. But on the other hand, democratic transparency requires an informed public. So, exactly how much secrecy is necessary before it starts to degrade the very society it's trying to protect?
And ultimately, when does protection become overreach? Where is that exact boundary line where a defensive intelligence system transforms into a mechanism of unchecked power? These aren't just philosophical questions either. These are active, real-time debates happening in oversight hearings and classified briefings around the world right now.
Intelligence operates in the shadows. It doesn't exist to replace visible power, but to shape it. It informs decisions, it influences perception, and sometimes it alters the course of history entirely. But if influence can exist completely without visibility, it leaves us with one final provocative thought. How much of the world we experience every single day is actually shaped by forces we never even see? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep learning.